of fearless freedom, and welcome back to my channel. I am here tonight to kind of talk to you about why I have taken such a long hiatus from my channel. I kind of stopped posting around the new year, and as the title of the video says, it is because my mother passed away here in Istanbul in January, at the end of January. So it's like, where do I start? I mean, there's just so much really to unpack, and it's taken me this long to really kind of have the emotional bandwidth to be able to even talk about this, because of course it's just so raw. And I do still have my moments, but I feel like I'm more collected emotionally enough to talk about it with you all and to share my experience, because it was just a complete nightmare. This is the worst case scenario, living abroad. A lot of times people ask, well, what's the worst can happen? Like, this is like the worst effing scenario that can happen. And it happened to myself and my daughter, and I just want to share a little bit with you what happened. So as you all know, my mother had been living with me here in Istanbul, and if you've been following us for a long time, you know my mom kind of like was with us on all of our international shenanigans and journey. She went with us to Spain, France. She even went with me to Puerto Rico. So Italy, she was with me in Italy off and on. She did not live with me in Italy, but she would come for maybe like a month at a time, sometimes a month and a half, and then go back home. And then of course she was living here in Istanbul, and where we had purchased property together, and we were getting our Turkish residency. So anyways, I want to say it was around last December, at the end of December, like right after Christmas, we started feeling really sick. The week prior, we had went to a send-off brunch to a friend who was returning back to Florida. And a week after that was like Christmas, and we started getting sick. First, my daughter was getting sick, and I was like, what the heck? And then we got sick, my mother and I got sick. And I want to say about day 2 or 3, I was just like, what the heck is going on? Like, I've never felt this sick in my life. I was just like, oh my God, I'm about to, like, I don't know what's wrong. My daughter was like, Mommy, I can't taste my food. And I was like, oh crap, maybe this is COVID. Because, you know, at the end of the year, everybody was sick. Like, everybody and their mother was sick. And so we went ahead and we got tested for COVID. Here in Turkey, you can actually have a facility come out and test you for COVID at home. So that's what we did. All 3 of us got tested for COVID. We awaited our results, and then all 3 of us tested negative for COVID. So once we tested negative for COVID, I really wasn't even thinking about COVID anymore. I was just like, whatever, we don't have COVID, probably we just have some really, really bad flu. It's really weird. I mean, we really weren't eating much. We really, we were trying to stay hydrated, but really no appetite, nothing. Now, I do want to put a disclaimer out here, because when it comes to COVID, there are so many different theories and answers in this. I want to say this. 1, I am a very healthy person. I live a plant-based lifestyle. I usually try holistic practices first before I try traditional medicine. That's usually my practice. So every year we stay elderberried up. We start our elderberry, like I want to say like September-ish, in preparation to build up our immune systems for the coming cold season. We are always taking herbs. I have a home apothecary. I actually took a 6-month-long family herb course. So if anybody's gonna like drop any hints like, well, you should have did this, or maybe you should have thought about some herbs, we did that. So I don't need knowledge on that. I have plenty of knowledge on herbs and traditional medicinal medicines, etc., and I use those frequently. And so we had did that this year. So there we go, disclaimer. But even still, we just got, like I said, super sick. Wasn't thinking about COVID anymore after we had tested negative. And I want to say like day 5, I was like, we should be feeling better, but we're not, and I noticed that my mother actually seemed like she was declining. Like she seemed like she was getting weaker. And I was like, okay, this is not right. We need to have someone come out to the house, or we need urgent care to come to the house. Because I didn't think, honestly, she was going to be able to have the strength to really make it to a hospital. Like, I just saw her, that week. And I was even like, Mommy, I thought maybe she's dehydrated. So I was like, Mommy, drink some water. Here's some tea. Drink some soup. Because I was ordering soup. That was really the only thing that we could do. And so I had urgent care come to the house. Because here in Turkey, you can have a medical doctor come to your home to make house visits. So I contacted Acıbadem Hospital or Acıbadem Medical Services and had them come out to the house. When they came out to the house, it was actually an EMS that had a doctor and nurse practitioner on board. They came, they took all of our vitals. They took my mom's vitals and they looked at me and they said, your mom's blood oxygen levels are 74. This is too low. We can't leave her like this. She needs to come to the hospital. Of course, because she's a foreigner, then they had to figure out which hospital did I want her to be taken to. All of a sudden, like I'm like pushed into this like emergency situation. I felt so bad for my mom because she was feeling very sick, very weak. Of course, she was a resident. She had just gotten her residency. So, she was considered a Turkish resident at that point, which actually made the process a lot easier. And so anyways, long story short, one of my friends here, Sarah of Surgery Savior, she actually has like a nurse, not a nurse, I'm sorry. She has a surgery companion company here in Istanbul, and she actually has nurses on board. So she made some calls and we kind of like had somebody to meet us at the hospital. So we decided to take her to Acıbadem. Acıbadem is one of the best private hospitals in Istanbul and in Turkey, very well known. They actually have a hospital, I want to say in Texas, if I'm not mistaken, but they have a facility in the States. Anyways, long story short, we decided on Acıbadem. The doctors there spoke English. Some of the nurses spoke English, some didn't, but whatever, that's a whole nother story. So anyways, we get to the emergency room. My friend has a companion there for my mom to just translate if necessary and make sure my mom understood what was going on. So the doctor does a full body scan. He comes back, he says, your mom has COVID pneumonia. I'm like, no way. Like, there's no way. Because we all just tested negative for COVID like 2 days ago or a day ago. And he's like, I'm sorry. He's like, but we just did the scan. This is what we're looking at. Your mom needs serious medical attention and needs to be admitted immediately. So she was admitted to the hospital and then she underwent treatment. She was put into the COVID unit. And that's just where, I don't know, it's just the situation, like all the drama began. Because of course, I mean, and I want to say this, well, I'll just tell the story because it's just, there are just so many layers to this. Acıbadem is a small private hospital. I think like in the whole hospital, there are only like 75 rooms, maybe 100 rooms. It's a very small private hospital. So the care she got was like more hands-on, etc. The COVID unit, I think, only had maybe 15 rooms or something like that. So anyways, my mom was admitted into the hospital because it was COVID. She was in isolation. But she had her cell phone, so we were chatting, talking to each other, video chatting. But they had put her on oxygen. So at a certain point, I feel like the oxygen, I don't know what happened. Honestly, I'm going to keep my mouth closed because I don't want to get banned to talk about certain things about COVID, but I'll just state the facts. They put her on oxygen. Initially, she had the two small tubes in her nose, and they upgraded to a different mask. So, at one point, I would come to the hospital, check on her her progress. They had started administering antibiotics, antibiotics and a cocktail of vitamins for her, and the doctor said he did feel like like she was responding to the treatment for the pneumonia. And then they had to upgrade her because her blood oxygen levels became unstable. So they upgraded her mask and they started mask therapy. And my mom, she did contact me because when they brought in the large mask, she was really scared because it does look scary, y'all. Like, I don't know if you all have any kind of experience with COVID or anything, but long story short, she was scared, and she indicated that, and she was just like, what's going on and everything. And they wanted to put a catheter in her because they wanted her to just stay on the oxygen. That was kind of dramatic because she didn't know what was going on, and so she contacted me like, Candace, they're doing something to me. I don't know what it is or why they're doing it, because the nurse didn't speak English really, and she was trying to Google Translate, so there was this whole language thing. And I just felt so bad for my mother because, like, that has to be so scary. So I'm like, Mommy, don't worry, I'm rushing up to the hospital right now. I'm going to find out what's going on so you know exactly what is going on with you. So got there, the nighttime ER doctor kind of told me what was going on, why they were doing what they were doing, and I just explained to my mom what was going on and just asked her, just please follow the protocol because I want you to get better. And she did. And of course, I'm kind of like summing things up. Even my friend, and like, God bless my friends. Listen, when I start talking about the expat lifestyle, and I'm talking about building relationships, building community, etc., I am talking about for real life situations like this, not just like to meet up for coffee or tea. And I mean, like, coffee and tea is nice, but coffee and tea is really nice, but like for real life emergencies, I'm telling you, my Turkish and non-Turkish friends came all the way through for me. When I needed someone to translate, or I just didn't know what's going on, I called my friend, him and his brother. Like, they were like, Candace, listen, we will treat this like this is our mom. They would come up at the drop of a dime to the hospital to talk to the doctors and see what's going on. So anyways, my mom was on oxygen therapy. They had her on the, what they call CBOP, BBOP, whatever mask. It looks really scary. And my mom was on that. And honestly, I kind of felt like she got worse in a way because of that. But I don't know. I can't really say yay or nay. But according to the x-rays, as far as the pneumonia is concerned, the doctor was happy. Little by little, she was getting better. And he was like, we just have to get some time, see if the medication works, etc. So my mom had been in the hospital, I want to say about 2 weeks. And finally, she tested negative for COVID. I think prior to that, my mom had been really like hallucinating, and I hear stories now of people who have had COVID, severe COVID, like at a certain point they start hallucinating and things like that, because she started saying like weird things to me, like she would like frantically call me up in the middle of the night and like, oh my God, Candace, they won't give me oxygen. They just won't give me oxygen. I've been crawling in the hallways, walking in the hallways and crawling in the hallways naked, without oxygen. And I'm like, I know that that's not happening. The first time she said it was freaking me out because I was like, oh my God, what? But then I talked to another friend who happens to be Turkish, and his mom had passed away of COVID like 2 months or 3 months prior to my mom passing away. And he told me that his mom was saying like similar weird things or whatever. So, anyways, my friend said his mom was saying like weird things too, and also it was like impossible for her to be really running down the hallways because she was hooked up to an oxygen machine and an IV machine and a catheter and all this other stuff. At one point, the doctors felt like her morale was going on. So even though, you know, they had me sign this waiver and they allowed me to actually go into the COVID unit and visit her to keep her morale up. And like, honestly, when I saw my mom, yeah, I would only wish something like that on my very, very, very worst enemy, like child molesters, something like that. Like, what I witnessed was just heartbreaking and sad. So anyways, you know, of course I'm dealing with family members calling me, all this other stuff, really crazy. A lot of stuff was going on. Just a lot, yeah, like a lot of stuff, and I'll have to like even talk about that another time. But anyways, the doctor let me go see her. At one point, we went to go get a second opinion from another doctor just to be certain. And so we went to a whole other, we got all our medical records. Like my Turkish friend was like, let us have all the medical records, let us go get a second opinion. And so we went to another hospital, talked to another doctor, and the doctor looked at all of my mom's medical records, all of the doctor's notes, and she was like, listen, this is a patient that's getting better. Your mom was critical when she went to the emergency room, and she's getting better. And she's like, I think that provided that she continue to wear her face mask and do the required therapy, I don't see why this is not a patient that's going to come home based on the medical records. So anyways, I think that was maybe 2 days after we got the second opinion. My mother finally had tested negative for COVID for the third day in a row, and they moved her out of the COVID unit. They actually called me like, hey, your mom is COVID negative, we're moving her out of the COVID unit. And I was really happy because then I could go see her. So I was making plans to go see her the next day. My mom, she actually called me like in the middle of the night, frantic, like, Candace, you've got to call the police. You've got to get the police involved. You've got to call my doctor, because she really liked her doctor. She thought he was really nice. And she's like, they've got me hiding out somewhere. They're hiding me out somewhere in this hospital. And they're trying not to let you know. And I was like, Mommy, like, I know where you are. They literally called me and told me where you are. You're gonna be okay, and I'm coming to see you in the morning. So after I said that, she seemed to calm down and be relaxed, and she was able to go to sleep. So I went to go see her the next day, and that was really good just to see her. It was still really sad because she was on the breathing machine, and they had her on this machine that kind of like, it kind of breathes for you, like sucks it. It's weird. It's like a weird breathing machine. Anyways, saw my mom. I was just grateful to be able to spend the time with her. I massaged her feet, gave her a pedicure, because y'all know I'm a beauty professional, and you know, being in the hospital like that and not having any lotion, folks not doing your hair, etc., you know, her toes were looking rough. So I was like, Mommy, I'm gonna do your pedicure. So I got her all lotioned up and massaged her. She said it felt good, and that was good. She was commenting about the food. She said the food was really good. She's like, the real Turkish food is up in here. She's like, I think there's some like Turkish grandmas down there cooking the food, because she's like, this is the best Turkish food that I've had since I've been here. So that was kind of funny. But what I had done is, once she got out of the COVID unit, I set it up with my friend Sarah of Surgery Savior. I set it up with her where we had somebody that would be sitting with her round the clock so that she wouldn't be alone, because I could tell that after being in isolation for 2 weeks, she was just really frazzled. And of course, my mom is a Gemini. Geminis are like super social. And so I had that set up. So we had that set up. And, you know, things seemed to be going pretty good. The doctor was actually talking about releasing my mother and sending her home with oxygen therapy, and her oxygen levels were like stabilizing when she took her oxygen mask off at about 92, which he felt was really good considering everything. But he had wanted to keep her a couple extra days to give her this medicine that basically prevents fibrosis of the lungs, or the stiffening of the lungs. So day 2, I'm trying to remember all the events. Okay, so yes. So actually that first night, my friend Sarah herself went to go stay with my mom, which my mom was very helpful. But then I get a call from Sarah like in the middle of the night, and she was like, Candace, your mom refuses to wear the big mask. And I'm like, Mommy, we had this conversation. You have to wear that mask. And it's kind of like, I'm not surprised, because like when during the visit, she kept saying that. She's like, I'm not wearing that mask. I'm not wearing that big mask. I feel like there's not enough air. I feel like I'm not breathing. I think maybe she felt claustrophobic or whatever in it. And I totally get it, because I would too. And anyways, she's like, I can't. She's like, I just can't. I'm not wearing that mask. I'll wear the smaller one, but I'm not wearing this one. So anyways, if you don't kind of know about the oxygen mask, so there are different types of oxygen masks. Most people are used to seeing the smaller clear plastic mask that goes around the nose and the mouth. It's clear plastic, or the ones like the tubes that go up your nose. The thing is that depending on which mask or form of oxygen treatment or therapy it is, that each one affects the saturation of oxygen differently. So if you need more oxygen saturation in your blood, they have to use a larger mask to achieve that. So she only wanted to wear the clear one or whatever, but by the time the morning came, that was not enough oxygen to really sustain her. So they wanted to she was like kind of panicking, like, okay, I'm having problems breathing. I'm like, okay, Mommy. She ended up calling my friend Sarah, and anyways, the doctor ended up rushing to her, and they had to put her on the larger mask. So by the time I got there, I think that was like Sunday morning, she had on the larger mask. But when the doctor tested her to see how her blood oxygen levels were without the mask, her blood oxygen levels quickly dropped to the 70s. It went from like, I want to say high 90s quickly without the mask to like the 70s. And it was like, honestly, we might have to consider intensive care for your mom, because if she can't sustain her blood oxygen levels at a safe level from without the mask, she can't really eat, and we can't really give her oral meds. It's just really dangerous. So I was just like, wow, really? I can't believe this, because she was doing so good. So she really wasn't that hungry that Sunday, and we had somebody stay with her overnight, and her blood oxygen levels with the oxygen mask on was like around, I want to say mid 90s. If you're a medical professional, you can kind of comment. Oh, sorry. I'm like, what's going on? Okay. So her blood oxygen levels were around mid 90s with the oxygen mask on. I had a companion stay with her overnight so she wouldn't feel scared or nervous, and she was able to sleep and rest peacefully. And the next morning, I was having someone else come in, but that's when I got a call from the doctor and the companion that my mom was not doing well, and they really felt like she had to go to intensive care. So they put her in intensive care unit. And usually what that means is intubation, where they put you to sleep in the tube. Um, from that point, I just got, my heart just sank. I just didn't even know what to do at this point, because it was just the worst, like I said, the absolute worst case scenario. I mean, I was at the hospital crying. It was super stressful. Of course, it was mostly me. I did have, like I said, I did have support from my friends, which are really amazing. None of my family members really have passports, so the family members that I actually would have liked to come over to give support were not able to do that because they did not have passports. So of course, there are other things. I'm like making a very long 3.5 week nightmare condensed. But my mom went into the IC unit, which only had like 10 beds in the whole whole IC unit. She looks very peaceful. They had put her to sleep. By the time I got up there, she was already intubated. I was able to go up there and privately talk to the doctor, and just kind of understand like what was the health goal that they were trying to achieve by intubating her. So they told me they wanted to continue giving her the antibiotics. I think it's been almost 7 months. I don't remember exactly, but they also really wanted to make sure her lungs fibrosis didn't set into her lungs. So they were giving her the medication for that. The only thing that I personally felt concerned with is like every time I would call, because I couldn't visit her anymore, and every time I would call, they would always say she was stable. But just so happened, I had a friend call up there in Turkish, and they said they had to increase her oxygen, and I just knew that didn't sound good. So I went up there myself, and when I got up there, the doctor basically told me like to expect the turn for the worst. And that right there really pissed me off, honestly, because had I not followed my intuition to go up there, I would have never been able to, see my mom or anything, because they let me see her. And when I saw her, I knew. I was like, it would literally take a miracle from God. I just knew like this is the end. And so that next day I got a call early in the morning that my mom had passed away. And anytime you get news like that, it's I mean, nothing on this planet prepares you for the loss of your mom. Like, it's gonna be hard to lose the woman that gave birth to you and nurtured and loved you and would sacrifice any and everything in this world for your happiness. It's gonna hurt, but when it actually happens, nothing really prepares you for that. It hits different. Like, I lost my dad 2 years ago in 2018. Yeah, almost 3 years ago now, 2018. And even though I was kind of expecting his death because he had cancer, this hit different, completely different. So in and of itself, that is just hard, right? So imagine this happening and you're living abroad. So you're like, okay, well, what are the next steps? What do we want to have happen? I mean, of course, I could have had her buried here, and honestly, that would have been the most economical thing for me to do, but I did not want to be inconsiderate to my family who deeply loved my mom. My mom was like the matriarch of our family. She is the one who checked on everybody. She was the glue. She was, the older sister. She was everybody's big sister. And so everyone really looked up to her and loved her a lot. Like, she was the one who was going to call everybody, make sure they were okay, if they needed any money, if they needed any food, anything. My mom was the one that was going to know, and she was the one that was going to help. My mother was a very caring person, and like just so many people like really loved her. And so I had to make the decision to go ahead and have her sent back to the States where we had her service. And that requires a lot of paperwork. It requires a lot of paperwork. You have to contact the U.S. Embassy. You have to fill out all these paperwork. This paperwork. You have to find a funeral home here. And I actually had an amazing woman. Her name is Tamara. I will have to leave the name of her business because she does both weddings and funerals. When I tell you this woman was amazing, she made the process so much easier. Like I almost just feel like crying again because just not in sadness, just in deep gratitude that so many angels were sent my way in human form to help me through this difficult time. But she made the process so much easier. She went to the hospital with me. She made sure all the paperwork was sent out right so that customs would clear for my mom to come back to the States and be as they call, repatriated back to the States. Yeah, it was just a whole process of, having to make funeral arrangements that quick when you thought like somebody was going to be coming home. And it's just, wow, crazy. So, we had to make all those funeral arrangements. What the costs were. On the state side, the funeral home that we worked with was just so, they were a blessing and they were so professional and did such an amazing job. Deeply grateful for them, but that went smooth, but it was still very hard. And I remember the day that my mom left for the final time, and I cried my eyes out because never in 2 million years did I imagine that my mom would be flying back to the States in the cargo hold of a plane in a casket. Like, never. We had our service, short, sweet, to the point. Of course, I had to notify everybody. That was really hard, especially my brother, whom we weren't on good terms with at the time, and that's a whole nother story for a whole nother time, maybe. But it was really difficult thing in a process, multi-layer difficult. But I think, through the whole process, and the reason why I'm even talking about that is because for those of you who live abroad, or those of us who live abroad, there are definite things that we need to talk about, because living the expat lifestyle, working remotely, being a digital nomad, being, traveling, etc., it's become such a thing, and it's so popular. You see it on Instagram and everyone's traveling, but you never think of the worst case scenario ever. And you need to be prepared. I don't think you should walk around in a state of fear about anything, but you definitely need to understand and be prepared. It is scary being in a hospital and having to use Google Translate to talk about things about your health. And yes, well, I think Turkey has a great healthcare system, and their healthcare system is actually better than the states, to be honest with you. When you look at the worldwide rankings, Turkey ranks higher across the board as far as quality of healthcare is concerned. And then, of course, tons of people come here for cosmetic surgery. But still, nonetheless, it's really hard when, nurses don't speak English, or they don't speak English well, or maybe the doctors they speak English, but it's not fluent English. It can just really be difficult, and having to be asked questions like, okay, should your mother need life-saving treatment or critical life-saving treatment? Do you want us to give it to her? Like questions like that. So I kind of have some notes down just because I don't just want to share my story. I also just want to give you people like tips that are living the expat lifestyle, or you just love to travel in general. I think number one, we need to talk about insurance. Making sure you have health insurance and life insurance that's going to cover you globally. And making sure you have enough insurance. Like my mom had insurance, but she did not have enough insurance really. Or actually she just had just enough to cover anything, not anything to leave us anything. And I don't really know what my mother was really thinking. She always was that person that prided herself in having insurance, but she never discussed like the policy or what it was, the amounts or anything like that with us. And in hindsight, it's something you definitely should discuss with your loved ones so they'll know. Or maybe not, in case you think somebody might do something to you for insurance fraud. Who knows? But making sure you have adequate insurance, both health and that'll cover you abroad, and life insurance is really important. Um, because if you only have enough, like, enough to cover your burial or something like that, then your family won't get anything. If that's what you, and if you want that to happen, then you need to make sure to plan for that. International health insurance is, like I said, important as well. Outside of life insurance, making sure you're covered. I personally have Alliance, but my insurance is Turkish insurance, but covers me globally, and it's very affordable. I actually paid, I'm gonna prop myself up. I actually paid for private insurance because it's so affordable here, and it allows me the ability to just be covered globally, and then also if I'm back visiting the States, and then here in Turkey. And being a Turkish legal Turkish resident, that's important to me, because going back to the States is always one of those things like, dang, like I hope, prior to this, I hope I don't get sick. I hope, nothing serious happens, because you can seriously go into debt because of the for-profit healthcare system that's in the States. So that's that. To the embassy, I think that it's really important to make sure that your family and emergency contacts have forms. In fact, I think some of the forms from the embassy you should already have filled out, or at least have a running list of emergency contacts along with their accurate and current phone numbers, emails, addresses, because the embassy is going to ask for all of those things when an American passes away abroad. I do want to nod my head and give kudos to the people at the U.S. Embassy here in Turkey. They were extremely caring, empathetic, and professional. And so for that, thank you from one American to another. I appreciate the care that I got from the American Embassy in this situation. They were absolutely helpful and amazing. And like I said, genuine condolences. But you need to have that, and you need to make sure that your contacts also have the number to the embassy wherever you're living. And that kind of moves me to the next situation, and that is making sure to have an emergency plan and emergency contacts. You need to make sure that if you are living abroad, traveling abroad, and it's not really with a lot of family, even if it is with a lot of family, who cares? You need to make sure that the people, like your friends, close friends abroad, have emergency contacts back home, so that if anything happens, your family can be quickly notified of what is going on, whether you're in the hospital, whether you're deceased, whether you're having a serious complications or you're missing, whatever. They need to have that information. That does not need to be neglected. So have an emergency plan, have emergency contacts, and make sure that both your friends and your group abroad in your host country have your emergency contacts, and also make sure that your family and friends back home have a way to contact your friends in your host country. That's really, really important. And I would do that even with my mother all the time. I would say, Mommy, okay, here's the name and numbers of these people who live in my area. If anything ever happens, please contact them. Ask yourself the question, Will you be buried at home, or, like when I say at home, like back in your home country, or will you be buried in your host country? Because if you want yourself or a loved one that lives with you abroad to be brought back to or repatriated to your home country for burial, that's going to cost money. And it cost me just over 4,000 US dollars to have my mom's body be repatriated back to the States. And making sure that you're speaking about your desire openly with your family, and that you have something written down, which kind of moves me to the next thing. Make sure you have a will. Make sure you have your final wishes down. I know we talk about this a lot, but especially if you have children and you're living abroad with children, don't neglect that. Create some kind of care plan, and at the very minimum, write down your plans and get them notarized or something like that, so that somebody would at least know what your final wishes and desires would be. When you have children, set up a trust fund, set up a trust for them, so that they're taken care of. Just make the preparations, because the truth is life happens abroad. I do want to do some sort of like worksheet or toolkit for this, and I will, hopefully toward the end of the year, if I have the capacity, emotional capacity to do that. But I want to do that for you all, because I feel like it's that important to have something like that. Right now, where I am in the grieving process, I'm moving more to a place of acceptance. It just really feels weird for so many reasons. One, my mom was such a spiritual woman. I think there was a part of me that just really didn't feel like she was going to ever pass away, or like if she did, it would be like when she was really, 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 really old. So it's really sad that she passed away when she was so vibrant. For those of you who might be curious, my mother was a healthy woman. My mother was 69 years old. She was vibrant. She was not on any medication whatsoever. She had no pre-existing conditions. She was a healthy, vibrant, lively woman, and anybody who knows her knows exactly what I'm talking about. So it wasn't like my mom was like this feeble woman taking diabetes pills or high blood pressure pills or whatever. She was healthy. She would walk every day. She would say hi to everybody. She was just very joyful and pleasant and active and mobile for her age. She stretched every day, so she always wanted to make sure she could touch her toes, and she would she was actually more flexible than me, to be honest with you. And so she was a healthy woman, which was another reason why this was just such a shock, because literally we went from brunching with friends to being sick as dogs with COVID, and then 3.5 weeks later she was gone. I think giving myself permission to be pissed off at the divine is, when I feel like it, is have been helpful. I know for a lot of people they feel like that's blasphemous, but I feel like I'm giving myself permission to feel whatever comes to my heart, and it's helping me move forward. I think, again, where I'm finally at a place where I can have a little bit of gratitude towards my mom in general. This what she meant to me and what her life is and how I want to be. We all, my mom and I, we talked about death. It wasn't a conversation that we shied away from, and she always told me, she said, Candace, when I pass and my time comes, I don't want you to be distraught. Yes, you're going to be sad, but I don't want you to be distraught and broken. She's like, I want you to be happy. I want you to live your life, and I want you to know that you'll see me again. And I always said to my mom, I was like, Mom, because my mom had some very different, unique Christian beliefs, but I always told her, I was like, Mom, if you get to the other side and you find out that there is some consciousness or certain level of consciousness, can you please visit me in my dreams and let me know like that you're there? And so my mom has been visiting in my dreams, and it's been really amazing and beautiful because sometimes like she's in glamorous gowns. One dream she was with her best friend. Her best friend passed away also a few years ago, and they were together. And I saw my mom, and she winked at me. And then there was another dream, like we were literally fussing about something. We were fussing about something, like we always would fuss back and forth. So it was really fun. I'm like, Mom, she's like, Candace, she's so hard-headed. It was just so funny. But yeah, I feel like I can give some gratitude, and I'm just learning. I mean, this is just new. It's like learning to walk without a leg, and not having your mom, like, your mom is the one person on the planet, unless she's like narcissistic or has some kind of mental problem. Um, she's the one person that's going to care about all the random dumb stuff that happens in your life. So, like, every time I feel like calling somebody just to talk about random stuff, it's just like I have nobody. And even though my aunts do listen to me, like, I'm not their kid, I'm not their kid. And so their love is only going to go so far for me. And I am learning to accept that. Nobody's going to replace your mom. Nobody can replace your mother. And it can be difficult, like I'm like an orphan now. Like I have no parents. And that feels really strange for me. But like I said, this is a day by day process. I feel like the weirdest things have been giving me comfort. Like I was going through this period of where, I'm like, well, you know what, God, this is just so effed up. I think this is just so effed up. I was like, y'all don't know my mother. My mother, anybody who knows my mother knows my mother was one of those prayer warriors where miracles would happen. Like miracles would happen. Like unbelievable miracles would happen. So there was a part of me that was just believing like, okay, my mom is going to have a miracle. I just know she's going to pull through and everything, because surely, like, I'm literally, all my mom ever did was get up, go for her walk, talk to all the neighbors, read her Bible all day, praise and worship. Like she was one of those kind of ladies. So I was like, I just know, she's, gonna pull through. And so when she did it, it was kind of like, really, God, really? Like the one time one of your most faithful servants needed a miracle for herself. Like you just were just nowhere to be seen, nowhere to be found. And it's just so effed up. And so, I just had to come through to some realizations and acceptance of certain things. One, we all have to take the death journey. It's a really effed up, horrible part of life. But it's the truth. Two, what is the fair way to go? I mean, there are people on the planet that, die when they're 10 years old, or, die of, like there are all kinds of circumstances that happen. So what is fair, really? And I just had to be grateful, learn to be grateful. Like at least I had my mom for 69 years, and I had to come to that place when people tell you all kind of stuff when something like this happens. And I didn't really get too mad, because I know people are just coming from the best place that they can. But sometimes people say stuff, it's just like, okay, there is such thing as toxic positivity. Like I know you're trying to cheer people up, or I know certain people will try to cheer you up, but allow for the moment of sadness, allow for that to flow, and allow for that to come, but let the person feel mad and let the person feel whatever they need to feel. But one of the things that I started doing is I just started watching real true crime. Like I started watching true crime, Snapped, because then that put things in perspective. I was like, okay, well, you know what? Yeah, it is effed up that my mom went like that, but at least my mom was asleep. She was intubated. She was not conscious of what really was going on. She wasn't scared or anything. So I can be grateful of that, versus some other horrible ways to go. And yeah, like I said, it's just a day by day process. And then watching like pimple poppy videos. That's so weird, but it's been able to calm me down. I was going through some anxieties, and I still do have some issues surrounding anxieties and my daughter. And I know I'm gonna have to work through that with the grief counseling once I get to that place where I want to actually take grief counseling. Um, but you know, a lot of people ask me, "Oh, are you gonna stay in Istanbul?" Yes, I'm gonna stay in Istanbul. Why? Because why not? Like, me coming to Istanbul and me living this expat life really was not contingent on my mom. Again, my mother was not living with us in Italy. We were there. That was my decision. She would come and visit, but she wasn't trying to stay there. Um, and you know, where I'm just riding this wave. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm just really just riding this wave, taking it easy, flowing right now and growing. And that's all I really care about, honestly. Right now, I really don't care about anything else in life. And I'm sorry if I was not looking the right direction, but I'm really not. I'm really not caring about much right now. Just really kind of getting through this year. I am starting to feel like a little bit of anxiety as it's starting to get closer to the latter part of the year. I'm feeling the need to kind of like run away, or I'm anticipating like, oh my God, I need to run away, or I need to prepare, or maybe something. Like, it is just so, I don't know. It's just weird. And yeah. Yeah. Yeah, a weird place where I'm at right now in regards to like some anxiety, but I am still finding that balance between experiencing joy and happiness and then grieving. It's a delicate dance. Happiness and positivity is my default. I've been reading a really great book called The Emotion Code, and of course I've been reading Dr. Joe Dispenza's books, Becoming Supernatural, and some of the other books. So those have helped me too, but I still had to allow myself to go through the process and feel all that stuff, because you can't really fake being positive when you've had a major loss, and losing your mother is a major loss. Anyways, just please, know that I'm going to be back with more regular videos now, but now you know why I was this long break and hiatus. My dear, sweet, beautiful mom, my biggest cheerleader and supporter, passed away. And I'm just really, just trying to figure it out and recreate things with this shift and turn. And so if you have any questions in the comments, you can ask. The only questions I will not be answering is whether my mom was vaccinated or not, because I don't feel like that's anybody's business, one way or the other. And many people feel different ways. Like people who are not, or who are anti-vax, are like, well, that's good. Or people, or or if the person was vaccinated, well, it's a vaccine that killed them. Or people who are pro-vaccine, if the person wasn't vaccinated, they're just like, well, see, that's what they get. They should have been vaccinated. So I'm not even going to answer that, because to me, that's people's personal business. It's nobody's business anyways, one way or the other. So that's the only question I will not be answering at all. And at any rate, make sure to like this video. Make sure to share this video, please, because everybody in the expat community needs to hear this message and needs to hear a plan. Like, they need to hear this. So please, please, please share this video in every travel, expat, digital nomad group that you are in. Please share this video, like this video, subscribe to my channel. Like I said, I'll be back with more videos, and God first, I actually am going to another country soon, and you guys can hit me up on Instagram and let me know which country you think it is. I'm not going to share, and no, I'm not moving there. I'm just visiting. Istanbul is home. Turkey is home for me. I love Turkey. I love being here. This is home. Like I said, my support system was amazing. My neighbors, let me tell you, my mom was the kind of person, she never met a stranger. She never met a stranger. I'm sorry, I'm looking the right way again. My mom never met a stranger. So my mother would have her little Google Translate. She was having her little Duolingo app, and she would be practicing her Turkish. And so everywhere my mom went, my mom would be like, Merhaba, Günaydın, Nasılsın, Nasılsınız? And so like people would practice Turkish with her on our street. Let me tell you, when my mom passed away, these people cried so hard. They actually wrote me notes, invited me over for tea, embraced me. I don't care what anybody says. There's like mixed bags about Turkish folks. I embrace the Turkish people. Again, the worst experience I have ever had in life is the Latino community in Miami, Florida. And I am not shy about saying that. It is the truth. The most anti-black, I just could not, I had to leave that place. I had to leave it. I cannot deal with that I can't deal with that. That's next level. And I'm like, no. The Turkish people, my Turkish friends, my neighborhood, they held me down so hard during this time for me. They have been supportive. They have, I have nothing bad to say. Are people perfect? No, no group of people are perfect. But the support, the real life support that I had received during that time, I would have never gotten that in the States, not even from blood relatives. And in fact, of my blood relatives, only my one aunt even bothered to help me pay for my funeral. But that's my mom's funeral, excuse me. So that's a whole nother story. Anyways, with all that being said, like, yes, make sure you're building a community for the hard times. You know, expat life real life happens. Real life happens. Yes, all the glam happens, and you're going all these fabulous places and yacht parties and rooftop parties and sipping wine and eating baklava and going to all these ancient sites. I mean, yeah, that is part of life, but real life happens, and you need to be prepared. So I hope this video has helped you. Again, like the video, share the video, subscribe to my channel. Thank you for listening to me. Again, leave any questions or comments in the comments section, and I will see you in the next video. All right, take care. Ciao.